What's up, Internet? It's Sunny, and today we're going to be talking about race realism. This has been a popular topic in the past few weeks because of Rage After Storm's video supporting it, because she believes that IQ is genetic and therefore causes problems in the Black community as a whole. The commentary, or skeptic community, largely disagreed, and some Black guy invited her to his stream to defend her case. She declined, ultimately, but they had the stream anyway without her. Kraut and T, to me, brought some really good facts to the table, and the stream mostly agreed, of course, but he was the only one that did the research to debunk Rage's claim of how low IQ is genetic in Black people and therefore causes all the crime and problems within the Black community. Tree of Logic offered to debate Derek because I assume that she agrees with Rage for some reason, which is totally weird. It would have been Tree and Rage against Derek and Kraut. It ended up not working out. But Tree felt betrayed by Derek because he did not put forth the effort to have the debate. I think it is the opinion of Tree and I that it seems like Derek did not want to be bothered into looking up the facts or being bothered by Tree at all because of her Twitter rage. Kraut would have done all the work, in my opinion, as he did in the first stream, and it would have just been Kraut against Tree and Rage. Don't get me wrong, I'm still subscribed to and following Tree and Derek, or some Black guy, but not Rage. Rage started retweeting Tara McCarthy, who I think is a white supremacist and not in the Tariq Nasheed sense. And I do not think that Rage thought of Blacks as a whole in a high manner. And thanks to a YouTuber named Nightmare Fuel, I just realized that the intro to Rage's video in question is totally soldiers from Nazi Germany marching and throwing up the Nazi salute. I had been subscribed to her for maybe a month and had not seen that much of her videos. That video was all it took for me to question her worldview, and then I completely unfollowed once I became aware of her Tara McCarthy retweeting. Now that I have known this, I've come to realize that she has always been this way. The skeptic community is not perfect and more than likely missed her obviously skewed views. Whenever I watch YouTube sometimes, I halfway listen and leave it on autoplay a lot so I can understand the shock whenever the skeptic community found out about her beliefs. Now with that out of the way, I want to bring some data to the table that to me debunks race realism, specifically the part that says IQ is genetic in Blacks and that we have a lower IQ than the rest of humanity. The book written by Richard Lynn and Tati Van Hanen called IQ and the Wealth of Nations, in which Rage cites her claim, has a research paper to debunk its data. A brief description of the book is the hypothesis that differences in IQ are partly responsible for differences in national wealth around the world. It ends with the claim that the gap between the rich and poor will be impossible to eradicate because of these differences. Firstly, the authors do studies in only 81 countries out of 185, which is only 44%, for real tested data, and data from non-tested countries are estimated. The research paper in nature.com, which will be linked below, brings up a very good argument that reads, "But this exercise in creative data collection is further confounded by the aforementioned secular IQ gains. Now, if IQ is a test of innate intelligence, as these authors suggest, there should not be such enormous gains, and if scores only represent increased competence at the test, as some suggest, then it only proves what a mixed-up argument it is. Never mind, the authors think they still can reveal the alleged true intelligence of nations underneath. Their scheme is to take the British Ravens IQ in 1979 as 100 and simply add or subtract 2 or 3 to the scores from other countries for each decade that the relevant date of test departs from that year. The assumptions of size, linearity, and universal applicability of this correction across all countries are, of course, hugely questionable, if not breathtaking. Flynn's original results were from only 14, recently extended to 20, industrialized nations, and even those gains varied substantially with test and country and were not linear. For example, recent studies report increase of 8 points per decade among Danes, 6 points per decade in Spain, and 26 points over 14 years in Kenya, confirming the expectation that newly developing countries would show more rapid gains. It is obvious that larger or smaller corrections over larger or smaller numbers of years can transform relative scores and rank orders, especially if the gains are non-linear. I know that's a bunch of word salad, but to me, this tells me that this particular study in the book, incomplete data was gathered and non-tested theories were presented as facts. There is no control when it comes to heritability in humans. Only in animals does this happen. There's no guy in a lab coat telling you to go mate with this person and let's see how smart your offspring is. Genetics are random and the environments vary greatly. On the topic of heritability, APA.org has a very boring but solid argument for how IQ is just not genetics, but the environment and other factors. Yes, there is some IQ passed down, but it is very little. It does not have an effect on your behavior. In this particular source, one particular part of the article puts this argument to rest in regards of IQ and race realism. It states, most studies estimate that the heritability of IQ is somewhere between 0.4 and 0.8% and generally less in children, but it really makes no sense to talk about a single value for the heritability of intelligence. The heritability of a trait depends on the relative variances of the predictors, and in this case, genotype and environment. Another study done called Heritability in Genomics Era, Concept and Misconceptions, it also reads, this misconception comes in two forms, and in both cases, height and IQ in human populations are good examples. The first misconception is that when the heritability is high, groups that differ greatly in the mean of the trait in question must do so because of genetic differences. The second misconception is that the observation of a shift in the mean of a character over time, when we can discount changes in gene frequencies, for a trait with high heritability is a paradox. For IQ, a large increase in the mean or average has been observed in numerous populations, and this phenomenon is called the Flynn effect after its discoverer. The problem with this suggested paradox is that heritability should not be used to make predictions about mean changes in the population over time or about differences between groups, because in each individual calculation, the heritability is defined for a particular population and says nothing about environments in other populations. White males born in the United States were the tallest in the world in the mid-19th century and about 9 centimeters taller than the Dutch males. At the end of the 20th century, although the height of males in the United States had increased, many European countries had overtaken them, and Dutch males are now approximately 5 centimeters taller than white US males. A trend that is likely to be environmental rather than genetic in origin. As you can see, even strong genetic traits such as height are affected by environmental surroundings, and not just strictly genetics. All the data and science used will be listed in the description box below. It's really good reading to hopefully convince you that IQ does not determine behavior, but only a small portion of a huge piece of the pie that makes humans the way that they are. Even still, IQ is not the ultimate authority when it comes to intelligence, nor is it something that is taken seriously anymore. Having a high IQ does not mean that you will be automatically more civilized in nature. Geniuses kill people every single day. I hope that you found this video informative, and I hope that it will convince you that IQ has nothing to do with the crime rate amongst blacks. It is simply environment, how you were raised, schools, and other factors. Of course, like and subscribe and comment your thoughts below on what you think. Again, everything quoted in this video plus some will be in the description box below. Have a great day, y'all, and I will go do the same.